I'd like to thank my friend Melissa for sending me a potato leek soup. That's what we're making today. Of course, I'm increasing it for size because I've got a lot more people to feed. So basically, I've just taken her recipe and added more ingredients to it, and hopefully it'll turn out kind of okay. A couple changes that I've decided to make today just to add a little bit more flavor to the recipe. We're gonna saute our onions. We're going to roast our garlic. We're gonna take these beautiful green onions and we're just going to add them as a garnish at the very end. So let's get started. I've got my potatoes down in the water so that I can just peel them and have the peelings in the water and then just put the potatoes in the pot. Now I'm gonna work on the garlic. The recipe says just take 3 cloves of garlic and throw it right into the soup. But what I thought would be nice is to roast it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top off this garlic. I'm going to add a little bit of EVOO to the top of it. And we're going to roast it for about 45 minutes to get it a nice golden brown color. And then we're going to just squeeze those out and add them straight to the soup. We're going to work on the onions now. I decided to go with a sweet onion simply because I think that element will add a little bit of awesomeness to the dish. So all I'm going to do is take off the top and bottom, cut it in half, peel off that outer layer of onion, and then I'm going to cut it into 3, and then I'm going to dice it. Just a rough dice, because what we're going to do is boil this in the chicken stock, and then we're just going to blend it anyways, make it into a puree. So it really doesn't matter the size of these, but just we want to break it down so that they tenderize and cook all the way through within a fair amount of time. I've decided to saute the onions to get a little bit of caramelization on the onions, just to bring out that natural sweetness to them a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1 tablespoon of canola oil. I find it's a very neutral based oil with no extra flavors or anything. And I'm just going to add that and heat that in the pan. And once that's heated, I'm going to add the onions in there and just get them so that they're just turning a little translucent, getting a little bit of color on them, a little caramelization, a little brown color on them, and hopefully that'll add just a natural sweetness to the whole dish. So you really don't want to touch the onions a whole lot once you get them on there. They'll do their own thing, so just let them sit there, let them get a little bit of color on, keep an eye on them, move them once in a while just to make sure that they're getting the proper amount of color, and they'll cook themselves. So what we're going to do now is just break down these potatoes so that they're kind of uniform in size, so they're going to cook at the same time. All we're going to do is just cut them rough, get them into the pot, get the pot on the stove with our chicken broth, and get that fired up and starting to heat up. The recipe didn't say what we wanted to do with our leeks, but what I've decided to do is just use the base of the leeks. We're just going to use most of the white part, so we're just going to use up until about there or so. Now, I've already got my onions on, they're sauteing, the garlic is roasting, and our potatoes are down in our chicken broth. So all we really got to do now to get this all on the way is to get these leeks broken down and into the pot. So I've broken down my leeks, and my onions are starting to caramelize really nicely. So I'm going to add the leeks straight to the onions and sort of get that flavor to kind of like meld together. Then after they're all done sauteing, I'm going to throw them right into the soup pot. Since we're going with a healthy option, we've decided to get the low sodium chicken broth, and we're not going to add any kind of salt to the dish. We've added a little bit of oil, but that shouldn't change the core foundation of this dish too much, hopefully. So right now we've got everything on. We're just going to be putting everything into the pot, and once that's done and cooled, we're going to blend it up and make a nice puree out of it. So as you can see, I've roasted my garlic. It went in there for 50 minutes. I let it rest for about 5, and then I pulled them out so I can get that, caramelization again, that sweetness. One thing I'm worried about is this dish might be a little bit too sweet, but kind of just crossing my fingers on this one. So these are just going to go straight in. And now we're just going to wait for the potatoes to cook all the way through, and then we're going to let it cool, and we're going to puree it. And everything is done. I let everything boil until the potatoes got cooked. Then I let that cool down a little bit, and I blended it all together to make it nice and smooth and made it into a nice little puree. And this is our finished product. We've got this beautiful little potato soup, potato leek soup, and I've just garnished it a little bit with some green onions on top. So that's it. Hopefully this bad boy tastes as good. Let's just, 1 second here. Let's see if this bad boy tastes as good as it's supposed to. Let's get a little bit of this in there. That's a good recipe. I'm not a soup guy, but I'd ask for seconds of that soup. Thanks for watching, guys.